Okay, hello again. Today we will talk about a new member in the application family of Simulator Controller. It's the so-called Practice Center. Um, and we are here in the Discord with a little audience, so please feel free to jump in and ask some questions if I forgot something or if you want to have a point much clearer than I mentioned. So, okay, let's start. The Practice Center. It's here, and we can open it with one click. And the first thing you will notice if you are already using Simulator Controller a little bit is that it looks very similar to the Race Center. The Race Center is an application for team races, which gives you full control over endurance race session with automated pit stop management from remote and stuff like that. And the Practice Center looks quite similar. And to be honest, it also shares a lot of code with the Race Center. You will understand it in a few moments why this is the case. But the main difference is it does not need a team server to operate. So you can use the Practice Center in your solo sessions. You don't have to set up anything. You just have to start the Practice Center, very important, before you're starting your session in ACC. And you must, also very important, close the Practice Center after you have left your session in ACC. It will make nothing explode if you do it wrong, but you may lose data in the end. But since this is the main purpose of the Practice Center, the Practice Center collects all the data which are raised by the race assistants during a session. And you can use the Practice Center in the end to review the data before it is transferred into your session database. And the Practice Center is also quite helpful to investigate which data is missing. For example, if you are double stinting sometimes tires in a race, you have to have data in your session database with high tire usage so that the strategy workbench can incorporate the degradation of lap times for your strategy calculation. This we will also take a look at in a few minutes. Yeah, let's get a quick tour around the Practice Center. I think you will already recognize that the upper area is completely similar to the Race Center. I will load a session which I had recorded yesterday. After almost a year pause, I made a race on the competition server in ACC because I had nothing else to do yesterday evening. And I recorded this race. Where are they? The sessions. Okay, it was a 30-minute race, and you already see that all the reports are there. So the message here is that you can use the Practice Center almost similar to the Race Center in your solo races. So if you want to have a report including all the telemetry data of one of your solo races, a sprint race, for example, you can use the Practice Center in the same manner as you use the Race Center for team races. You also have, for example, all the laps, including the standings and gaps and in that particular lab and so on. But you will also recognize here a difference. For example, these check marks here at the front of each lab. The purpose of this has something to do with the review of the telemetry data before they get transferred to the session database. We will see. So this is one usage of the practice center as a kind of session recorder for your solo or sprint races. And the other is, as the name suggests, an application to manage your practicing. And for this purpose, there are a couple of additional pages here in the tab view. For example, here, the tires page, and also here, the data page, which shows you all the recorded data in your particular session. The lap times, for example, for tires that are used already for 20 laps, and fuel left in the tank between 0 and 15 liters. This is this data point. This data point says the tires are already used for 15 laps, and there are between 15 and 30 liters left in your tank, and so on and so on. So you see here a matrix for different combinations of important telemetry data, which has been collected during this session, because I selected only use the data from the current session. We can, for example, go to another track. Let's see my old McLaren on Spa. We will not take a look at the session data because the session is empty currently, but we will take a look at the full database. And you see here that a lot of data is currently available in the database, in the session database. And you can see here in what categories this data falls and what lap times has been recorded there, for example, for different maps, for different fuel levels, for different tire usages, and so on. This is a view which is not available at for the race center, obviously, but it's very handy here for practicing, because there is an additional functionality. For example, here when you open up the run sheet. The run sheet says it's the other way around. This view shows you the data which is available, and the run sheet tells you which data is not available, which is missing. And if you select one of those, you will get a recommendation how to set up a practice run to gather this data. For example, to create a data point for moderately used tires with the tank at half full level. It says that you have to mount a tire set which has already been used for roughly 15 laps, and put 60 liter into the tank and go to the track, run a couple of laps. Around 15 laps will be perfect, and so on and so on. So you will get a description how to collect this kind of data when you select one of these points here. That's the data management. And I will load the session we had before again. And we want only to look at the data which has been collected in this session for this kind of setup. Okay, it was a 30-minute race, so we had no different tires, no different weather conditions, only this one. And And this data has been collected during the race. And now you have the possibility to store the data finally to the session database. Because, and this is why I said at the beginning it is important to start the practice center before you start your session and close it after you have finished your session. Since in this case, the race assistants will not store any data. You will not even be asked by, for example, the race engineer whether you have been satisfied with the setup and if you want to store the tire pressures and stuff like that. They won't simply, they will simply ignore this and will leave this duty to the practice center. They know that the practice center is running and you are in control here about what you want to store in the session database and what not. So for this 30-minute race, I had collected 17 laps on Barcelona. And now we can talk about these check marks here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Come.
If I just want to look at the data in the telemetry database like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
can I do that without opening a session?
Yes, I made it before. I think you haven't seen that. When I, for example, switch here to a different track, the session will be cleared and you will have, you can start a new session in this case by running your simulator, but you can also only look at the data which is currently in your database. We have done it just before. I can do it again. You select a car and a track, for example, here Solder. Go to the data page, say you want to take a look at the telemetry database, and here we are. So for Solder, I only have data for engine map 1, but this set of data is complete, and you see here in the run sheet there are no gaps to fill, to close.
Okay, clear.
Okay, and once again, when you load a session or when you start a session in your simulator, you will get automatically here, it will switch to the car you have used, to the track, and it will show you, according to your selection here, the data which is available. I can also switch here to medium rain, and okay, it was a dry session, so there is no data for rain.
Clear.
Okay, fine. So going back here to the labs view, these 17 labs has been recorded in the session, and the practice center already selects those labs which were not out labs. For example, the first 2 labs are automatically deselected. And also, when you have been in the pit in a race with a pit stop, the labs, two laps after the pit stop will automatically be deselected, and all invalid laps will be automatically deselected. All other laps are selected, and these laps will be transferred to the session database when you request it here by calling the export to database, or when you close the practice center, it will ask, okay, you have unsafe data. Do you want to transfer it to the session database before closing? If you say no, the data might be lost. Or you say yes, and that will be saved. Might be lost means you have an active session, you were just connected to the simulator, the data has just been recorded, and you close this, the practice center without saving a copy before. Then if you answer no to the question box, the data will be lost forever.
Question?
Yeah.
If you have set the settings to always save the data and the practice center is running, what happens?
It will not be saved always. As I said, the settings and the configuration of the race assistance will be ignored when the practice center is running. The practice center overrules it.
Okay.
But I must repeat it because it's very important. But it's only the case if the practice center is running the full session. If you close it before finishing the session, the assistants might think, okay, practice center is away, then I am the one to save the data. Okay, you can, if you want, check more labs here. So you say, okay, I had a little off track, but it won't have any effect to the telemetry data. So I want to save this lab anyway. And then you call export to database. If you do this, or if you do this by answering yes to the question box here while closing, the data will be transferred for the session database to the session database, and any future saving or exporting of the data will be prevented. There is a flag which will be set in the temporary database file, which said it has been exported, and so you won't get any data duplicates. So you can't export it several times. So review it carefully before saving. It will even mention that if I say this is only possible once, okay, and when I now click yes, it will be saved to the session database. Okay, that's that. You can, for example, this is a little jump, sorry. You can create a data summary for your collected data if you want to store it away as a report. And you can switch between the conditions for the data. Everything can be done before you export the data. Now let's come to this one. If you are practicing, then you will run several practice stints in your practice session. Typical is running 3 to 4 labs, working on the setup, going back to the garage by escape, starting the next labs, and so on. And there are many possibilities to work with your tires during your practice. Currently, everything is grayed out because we are in a loaded session, but we can, for example, now clear this one. So reset everything to empty. And now the practice center is working for a simulator to start up. In this case, Assetto Corsa Competizione. And you then can run your first practice stint. Let's take a look here at this this area. The major point you have to manage during your practice are your tire sets. Other telemetry relevant data will be recorded directly from the simulator. For example, how much fuel do you have in your car, what are the temperatures, the pressures, and so on, at least for ACC, not for all other simulators. But in many cases, you have to tell the practice center on which tires you are out for your practice stint. The problem here is that most simulators do not even tell you about tire sets, and ACC, although it tells you about tire sets, it won't tell you in the data that you are currently in the garage for changing tires. So I or the practice center is not always able to determine that you have started a new practice stint. It will, when you go to the pit and do a real pit stop during practice. I know we all won't do that normally, but if you do it, it will detect automatically that you has been in the pits, and it will detect automatically on what tires you are, and it would also detect automatically the tire set and your starting pressures. But if this does not work, and you, for example, escaped to the garage, changed something on your car, and want to run the next practice stint, you can also go here into the manual mode. You can also say what kind of tires you are mounting for the next stint, and you can also tell the practice center you will have tire set 5 mounted, and these are my starting pressures, and so on. And then you click here on new stint, and it will create a new stint. Let me put in here some other values. In ACC, you can leave this one almost always on auto. It will collect the data from the simulator data. But for many other simulators, for example, Automobilista 2, Race Room, you have to enter this data on your own, because there is no way to get the data from the simulator. Okay, now we have a completely empty practice session here, and I click on new stint. And you see here in the stints list that a stint has been created for my practice, and now I can leave the pit and run a couple of laps, and they will all be recorded into stint number 1. Because we are in ACC, I will normally leave this on auto, so the practice center will automatically detect the mounted tires, tire set, and so on at the end of the first lap. I will now load a session which has been recorded with 2 different practice stints, so that you can see how this is managed. Okay, it was with an Audi R8 in Barcelona. We have 2 stints here, and you see that the first stint has been run on tire set number 1. It was 7 laps long, no accidents, consumed fuel, average lap time, and so on and so on. Second stint was on tire set number 3. And the practice center will automatically collect here the data about the tire sets, and this data will also be transferred to the session database when you export the data to the session database. When you now go here into the run sheet, for example, and select this one, it recommends to mount the tire sets which has been already run for around 15 laps, and yes, we don't have one, so we need to do another practice stint on tire set number 1, running 8 additional laps, so that we have a set of worn tires before we can use this kind of practice run to fill in the gaps, to close one of the gaps in the data. Understood so far? Okay,
Yes.
No questions. Great. Then I will come to the last point. I will start up ACC in the background. There is one interesting view here which is not available in the race center. It's named running. This is a real-time data view, which is also the default view in your practice center. I will turn down the audio a little bit here for ACC. Okay. this view can show you live data from your current session with a very low resolution up to 2 seconds update cycle. To use this, you have to change one of the settings here in the session database. This is this one, data update frequency. The default for this is 10 seconds. This is the old update frequency, which has been has been active since several years in Simulator Controller. This is the update frequency for the race assistance. After the so-called big rewrite for release 5.0, I was able to lower the update frequency and down to values as low as 2 seconds, which means that all the data streams in Simulator Controller will be updated every 2 seconds. And this, if you want to have a kind of real-time view here in running, you have to set this to as low as possible. It depends a little bit on the power of your computer, if you can go as low as 2 seconds. But 4 seconds will always be safe. So, now I will start a session. I will clear this. I am currently on Mount Panorama with the Evo. And just run a quick lap. Oh, stop. I still have to start up Simulator Controller itself, otherwise nothing will happen.
Hey Oliver, I will spot for you. It is dry with 21 degrees air temperature and 21 degrees track temperature.
So
you have qualified for P1. There are 60 exciting minutes ahead. The race start is near.
The practice center already has picked up the session. You can see it in the upper left corner. It tells that we are running the McLaren Evo on Mount Panorama. But it will, as well as the race center or many other applications, it will wait until the end of the first lap before it begins to show any data. So we will have to wait 2 minutes, and I will try to not crash in the outlap. As you can also see that it jumped back to auto mode for stint and auto mode for tires at the beginning of the session, which is normal, since in many cases this will work. Already on my way back to the start-finish line. Survived the hill.
Yellow flag in second sector.
Oh, a lot of AI cars standing at Forest's elbow. Typical corner for a crash.
Green flag.
So, last corner.
this is Tom. And you will...
Yellow flag in second sector.
Took a look.
And you will have support from our strategist, Andrew.
Crashed in T1
Call us
because
if you
I
have questions.
took a
Car
look
on
at
the
the
left
practice
behind you.
center, and now you see
Call
here
us if you have questions.
the
Attention
live
left.
data in the
Attention left.
graph above.
Hold the line.
The x-axis,
Clear
by
on
the
the
way, is the
Attention left.
track distance.
Call us if...
Hold the line. Clear on the left.
Looks like the bodywork and the aerodynamics were damaged.
And here
I
it
will look into that
shows
and come back to you.
the current selected axis are the core temperatures of the tires and the brake temperatures. And I will put the car on the green in a few moments
Attention behind.
to show you what's possible even there. Okay, let's take a stop here. Oh, no, not a good place. Anyway, escape. So, a very interesting thing which is available here is that you don't even only have the core temperatures, but also the temperatures at the different sections of the tire. Middle temperatures, outer temperatures, inner temperatures, which is not very easy to get at otherwise, because at least in ACC you must escape to the garage and then you can take a look at the temperatures, and most of the time, because they are very fast floating around, you won't get a real value. It's a very important value for setup work, this kind of temperatures, and you will have them here in a real-time graph. Okay, let's, for example, inner front left, inner front right, and all the other put to none. Why? Interesting. Don't have it. Okay. This is the must-have bug during a presentation. Sorry for that. Okay, but you get the idea, I think. So, that's all about the practice center, at least as what I have to tell. Any questions at this point? Nope. Everybody muted. So, yeah, that's it. Have fun with it, and it's a very handful tool, I think. And now, goodbye until the next session.